Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, and we're coming to you from the edge of the Great Red Divide. I can't talk today, Marie. And we're talking about respect.
R-E-S-P-E-C. Uh-oh, we can't sing any more than that or we'll get fined.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and the thing about respect is that respect is something that the world is really short on right now, especially here in the United States. And you can find out more about respect and about our platform at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. Like, share, subscribe, download. Here we are. So, okay, Marie, so what are you thinking today? What do you want to talk about?
I think that we should really talk about the frustrations that we are facing as a country. I think we need to address exactly what we sang, respect.
Yeah.
Everyone is in a different place, and we get that. That's totally okay. What we don't understand is why your desires outweigh anyone else's safety. It's the same mentality we talk about when we talk about Second Amendment. And at this point, Heidi, I'm going to be really honest with you. The last few days was really hard. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and my frustration with people opening businesses that shouldn't, and non-mask wearing, and the more we find out, we now have the Kawasaki disease in kids here in Illinois.
Yes.
It's overwhelming, and so you and I started talking, and it really sort of helped me put things in perspective. And that perspective is we need to thank some other people too.
Well, the thing is the shelter-in-place order here in Illinois where we're at. The fact that we don't have a cohesive federal directive, we don't have any other president in my lifetime, or I went back and reread history of all the different presidents and other issues that we've had, other crises that we've had. And the presidents have always been the person to pull the country together, to cheerlead us through these dark times. And we don't have that right now. We have a person that has decided it's better to divide the country to maybe win an election than it is to pull the country together to work toward a common cause. And that's
and let's be honest, Heidi. I think you know exactly what you said, but it's also about personal agendas.
And personal responsibility, because they go hand
absolutely.
in hand. The thing that you and I have noticed over the last, since we started talking about COVID, and you and I were talking off camera about COVID-19, clear back in December, we started talking about that and did our first show, I think, in January on it. That's called, Is This a Real Life or Is It a Trump Fantasy? Because we couldn't figure out where we were going with this. And you and I saw it as a real crisis and a real problem. And we saw the Trump administration trying to figure out how to make money from it rather than addressing the problem. So we were really concerned about that way back then. And as we've seen, as the things have gelled and we're forward into May now, 5 months later, we're seeing that there is no cohesive agenda from the Trump administration to guide us through this. So now, in my case, being a horse trainer, my show season is gone. My kids that are in 4-H, their 4-H season is gone. The county and state fairs are gone. There's not much left for my business in all of this. It's not going to come back this year. And I've already wrapped my head around that. But I understand for a lot of people, I mean, I can rail against the machine and say, I've got to get back to work, but I don't want to get sick. And I certainly don't want any of my clients to get sick because most of them are kids. But I don't see other people going, you know what, I'd love to start cutting hair, but I know it's not safe right now, so I need to take a break. Instead, I hear people going, I've got to get back to work. I need a haircut. I've got my gray hair showing.
The point question I have is, okay, so you want to get a haircut. Mm-hmm. Great. Your stylist is probably going to be booked for quite a while once we open things up. And that's good for you. But why is your right to get a hair, and maybe your stylist doesn't want to go back to work when it's unsafe.
Right.
Maybe they're concerned about liability. Insurance liability.
I think I told you the other day, I checked with my insurance agent. If I open up again before and not follow our governor's directive, and they can trace COVID-19 back to my farm, my insurance doesn't cover me. I've violated state law and state regulation, and I've gone against the guidelines. I'm on my own. I'll lose everything.
Well, that's
everything.
the same thing for our soccer club.
Yeah.
Our insurance is through our league, who gets it through U.S. Soccer, and it was in the utmost of terms. There is to be absolutely no practice, no games, no anything outside of this, or your insurance is no longer valid.
And you and I can't risk that because everything we have is tied up in that. So I don't want to lose my house, my farm, my ability to make a living.
So these folks are telling us to go back to work, get out there, go back to work, start coaching again, get the kids out there, start training again. And they want these things, but we're the ones that own the businesses and we don't want that. Do we need to make a living? Absolutely. But yes. Is it safe? No, it's not. And again, we talk about respect. There is no respect of what someone else may be going through.
Right.
And I think that's where we lose a lot of ground on this. Is it seems as if we're very self-centered, and that is our driving force, is all about us.
I've told you, it's the reality show mentality. It's the Kardashian mentality. In a world full of Kardashians, be the Mother Teresa. You really need to. We need more of those, and we need people with, fake designer purses. Kim could afford real ones, but you know what I mean?
Heidi, you mentioned something as we started talking about not having a unified federal response. And
right.
I get it. It is very hard to have a state response in a state the size of Illinois.
Right.
It is different geographically. It is different on so many levels. And I understand the frustration there. I think our governor's done a good job of trying to help mitigate that somewhat. But even in our own state, there's this divide and this division. So to have one plan fits all for all of our states, I don't think that's a possibility. But what I do think is there could have been clear guidelines for each and every state, county, when they made those milestones. There could be a consistent message. When you have the two people working very closely with the president and the vice president contract the disease, and they don't have masks on, and they're not having people around them wear masks, that sends a message to all of these people who are really frustrating us that we don't need to wear masks. I can't tell you how many times a day I hear, the CDC, even the CDC says don't wear masks. Well, they said that like a long time ago, okay? And the reason they did that was because the N95 masks they need to keep for the frontline workers, for our first responders. Right. And they didn't want everyone going and getting them because they were hard enough to come by. That doesn't mean there wasn't a valid reason to not wear a mask. And people are getting unbelievably partisan and pulled, and it's disgusting.
Well, you and I talked about how these reopen the United States issue started, and they started with the oil billionaires and the hedge fund billionaires that had lost so much money when oil tanked and when the stock market tanked. So what they did is they sent, and this is a matter of record. I mean, you can go and check this anywhere or listen to your previous Heartland Mamas podcast where we give you where you can find this information. But they went out to to gun shows and recruited the most vocal activists that they could find. Doesn't mean that they're bad guys. It just means that they're vocal activists, and they recruited them into this. This is, our constitutional rights to have the states open, and they tied it to 2A rights, and they got these people on board. So you went from 10% of the country wanting the country open to 12% of the country wanting the country open. So what they did is they then took that message out, and they sponsored the new version of the Tea Parties called the Freedom Movement, which is sponsored by the Koch brothers. And they sponsor these little outpourings of Trump flag waving, very patriotic flag waving. Now, in some states, like in Michigan, they stormed the Capitol with guns. You would never get away with that in Illinois, just saying. And they don't do it here in Illinois, but they come out and wave their little flags. But when they do stuff like that, they get a lot of press. And then they get other people thinking, you know what? I'm tired of being home too. Everybody's sick of being home. I would love to go out to dinner. I'd like to get my hair cut. I'm going to wait,
And Heidi, I think there's something else that goes on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the more people hear that other people are going out and that it's wrong, even though they know internally it's probably not a good decision, it's probably risky, we don't listen to logic, we listen to what we want. We are impulse-driven creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And so particularly in this fast food immediate world that we live in. So we expect to have what we want, and this being denied for 6-8 weeks is, and you can't blame someone.
No.
Their psyche is their psyche, but when they see Monster Truck Joe at his rally with all the people around, and then you see Colorado dumbass opening his restaurant for breakfast with a sign that says, attention, if you expect to be social distance, don't come in here. If you don't want somebody breathing on you, don't come in here. This is America and it's about freedom. And there were more than 100 people in there close to each other. And they defied the orders. Now, when I'm sitting at home and I see that, even me, who knows it's absolutely banana pants, says, well, everybody else is doing it.
Hold on.
Now, Lud. Oh,
keep talking.
Okay.
Hey, get out of here.
Well, I'll just keep talking while Miss Heidi is gone. So, I think that what it comes down to is I totally got distracted and I spaced the rest of this. So I would like to apologize for this interruption. But as we were talking, I think what's important to remember is we start to normalize behavior that isn't acceptable. So it's the same sort of thing with, okay, everyone jumped all over the PC movement, treating people like equals with respect, right? That's terrifying. So why would we let that happen? So we have the PC movement moving forward and people rejecting that and it gaining more traction because it plays on our deepest instincts. If somebody else is doing it, then it must be okay because we justify it in ourselves. And I think that becomes a slippery slope where you maybe justify one action. So Mother's Day, it was tough. A lot of people didn't get to see their moms. But I also know a lot of people sort of push those boundaries that hadn't been pushing those boundaries before. People that know better, that do respect social distancing, that are, some of my neighbors, and they really push that boundary on Mother's Day. And, vintage car shows and pushing that boundary. And if you push it once, you're more likely to go, well, everything was okay, so we're going to have our neighbors over because I know they're fine and they're fine. And it just gives us a little more room to be less vigilant. And I know vigilance sounds absolutely bananas. I get it. But it is imperative that we at least remain alert. Vigilant can be tired. But, I guess it harkens back to when my mom, when I was a little girl, my mom would always tell me a lie snowballs, right? And you have to try to remember a lie. And, then you have to cover a lie with another lie with another lie, which doesn't seem like there's any connection, but and then she would say that each time you lie, it gets a little bit easier. Because you've already said one lie, so it's just easier. So that's kind of the mentality is once I've already dipped my toes where I shouldn't, it's a little easier. Like the first time a kid looks over at a classmate's test because they're worried of failing and jots down the answers can be pretty dramatic. But if nothing happens, then the next time they might be a little more brazen about it. And I think that just goes to show, and there isn't an immediate reaction to what is happening. There isn't an immediate enough consequence for people to understand
Right.
that they're going to have actions, and it builds off of it. And like I was just saying, how if you think that, I know Mother's Day was so tough for everyone, but I also saw my neighbors and people wanting to, or getting together in ways that they probably shouldn't have, and people who'd been very good before. So once you do it once and nothing happens, you're like, well, we could probably get together with these guys. Oh, we could do this or this or this,
Yeah.
because it's what you want rather than what you know.
Murray,
So what happened?
I have to explain. I had to
Yes,
run. I
please.
had to run out of my separate studio here in Marseilles, Illinois, because I've been having problems with foxes in my hen house, and I literally had a fox in my hen house, and I heard my chickens crying in distress,
Where the hell are
and
the dogs?
my dogs were in the house so they don't bark, and they were barking earlier, scaring the fox away, but I put them away so they wouldn't interrupt, and
So did you save your chickens?
I saved my chickens, but I forgot to grab my 22. I would have shot that fox.
See, not all Democrats are against
Oh
guns,
no, and
people. Let me just tell
I'm
you.
a damn good
So
shot.
Heidi, while you ducked out, I sort of gave my diatribe about where we are and where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that maybe I should turn it over to you and let you talk about. Okay, so we're having these people growing. They're getting more, they're antsy. They want to get out. They're
Yeah.
doing more emotionally based rather than factually based. The tensions are mounting. And it feels overwhelming, and it feels almost hopeless sometimes.
Well,
So what can we do, Heidi?
Well, and I wanted to go back to what I had started to talk about the recruitment of getting people on board for this no mask reopen America campaign. Is what happened is they've linked all of this to patriotism. It's not patriotic to save the stock market. It is patriotic to save American lives. Period. And what they've done is they've managed to get the entire Republican Party on board with ripping the Band-Aid off and letting everybody get sick. Because if they can open the economy again, it boosts up the stock market, it lowers the unemployment numbers. We're approaching 20% unemployment right now, which is huge. I mean, we've lost all the gains under the Obama administration and the Trump administration. But when you're out and about, it gets very frustrating seeing people not wearing masks, not social distancing, not taking precautions that can save lives. And the bottom line is that we all feel it. We all feel that stress.
Heidi?
Yeah.
Okay, you just froze on me, girl.
Oh, sorry.
We had some technical glitches.
Okay, I didn't move my mouse there. So, but we all feel that stress of not having the life we used to live, right? We all feel that, and we all feel that internally. And, yesterday was Mother's Day. I would have loved to have gone out to brunch like we usually do and done our whole Mother's Day thing. That wasn't going to happen. So we social distance fried chicken dinner. And worked out fine. We had to sit apart, but we were together in my yard. But I want you to know that sometimes when it feels overwhelming and you feel all these squeaky wheels are getting ahead, and you see these people that are armed, armed with weapons that they issue people in the military. Weapons that you do
And
not...
Heidi, think of, you hit on it.
Yeah. Now,
And we have folks that are going to work trying to figure this out. Nobody's been here before. Nobody's done it. If you want to get really frustrated, watch your local governor on a Facebook feed and listen to the comments, read the comments. It's insanity. But these and like you said, we're all frustrated. We're all pushing.
yeah.
We all want this, and they riled up this base and got people pushing something that's just a part of mercenary capitalism.
Yes.
And we have these legislators that are fighting back, and they're not just fighting back against those outliers. They're fighting back against the corporations who are saying, hey, our employees are getting threatened. It's not safe. Roll back those protections. We need this campaign finance. They're facing so many things, and those ones that stand firm, I think we need to appreciate.
We do need to appreciate them. I know that the Republican Party gets most of their money from oil and hedge fund. That's where their donations come through the dark money, through super PACs. And we've talked about that in previous episodes. And that's why they're co-opting this message. It's not that they really believe in it. If they want to be able to be a participant in this fall's election, they're going to need that money. They know that. And so they co-opt the message and they co-opt the party because those people have owned the Republican Party for ever now, for at least the last 20 years. They've been buying more and more senators and more representatives in both House and federal level. So
and state and local.
State and local, absolutely. So what happens is when you get frustrated with those people, you need to remember to thank the people that are standing up for you, that are saying, hey, look, we can't do what Rick DeSantis is doing in Florida. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to do what DeWine is doing in Ohio, or what Pritzker is doing in Illinois, or what Whitaker is doing in Michigan. And we're going to, as people, we're going to tweet them, we're going to email them, we're going to resist bot them, we're going to call and leave messages and say thank you for looking out for us, because they need to hear from us that we're grateful for the guidance that they're giving, for the good protections they're giving, because they're not hearing feedback from us. They're only hearing it from the wackadoos,
So if you're pushed to the edge,
yeah,
and you're exhausted like we all have been,
yes,
and you're about to go, fuck it, you know what? Maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah, maybe
because
I'll go down and get ice cream.
To that point,
yeah.
Imagine the pressures that our legislators are feeling. Not only are they feeling all of the personal things we are,
right,
but they're feeling the weight of all of those lives on them.
Yes.
And so when we
burden.
have local mayors who are wanting to open up and this, that, and the other with high death rates, and they're crazy, but when you do get a mayor or a county board member or a representative or a senator, let's shout them out on social media.
Yes.
If your governor does news conferences, or your public health department, or your mayor, in those comments on the social media ones, you say something positive.
Give them a heart.
There are people watching those.
Yeah.
Say
thank you.
Send an email to them. Write a note. It doesn't have to be big. Just, I know it's really crappy right now, and I appreciate that you're doing what you can for all of us.
Right.
That may make the difference between that little mayor in Oklahoma saying, well, I'm not going to enforce the mask because people who have businesses here are afraid their people are going to get shot.
I'm still calling BS on Stillwater, Oklahoma.
I know. But that mayor saying, screw you, you're going to jail, and anybody else who does.
Yeah.
So the more support they have, the more likely they are to make decisions that are best for us instead of best for them.
Right.
So I really think we need to make sure that we are extending that understanding and support to them too, because it is getting louder, and the squeaky wheel does
get
a lot of frickin' traction, and the media loves those types of darlings, and the stupid people follow it like cattle.
Yeah. Well,
it's mind numbing.
The media loves to go and shoot pictures of people screaming at police officers, waving guns in their face, demanding to get into the chambers in Michigan and Kentucky, wherever else it has happened, and saying horrible things. There was a protest in front of the woman who's in charge of public health in Ohio, not the governor. They went to the woman who was a man. They went to her house to protest. She's a doctor doing her damn job, for God's sake. And what we're getting is we're not getting enough people saying to her, hey, thank you for doing a great job. She needs to hear that. The governor, DeWine, needs to hear that. Pritzker needs to hear that. They all need to know that we're happy with what they're trying to get done here, which is saving people's lives. And
because far too often we go to the negative, we're always, so maybe bringing some light to them will help. And I just kind of want to say, like I said in the beginning, this had been a rough couple of days for me,
Yeah.
and just really overwhelmed with everything. It's hard not to get that way. And
My sisters and I were talking today because my dad passed away in the middle of March. We had a graveside service for him. I was able to be with him because we were at the beginning of this crisis, but we can't hold a celebration of life for him. We had planned it. We've had to cancel it. We've planned it again. We've had to cancel it because it's not safe for us to all be out there right now and all be together. So I understand that frustration. Oh, geez, I would love to say a proper goodbye to my dad and for all of his friends and our family to gather together to mourn, and we can't. So I know with your dad being in the nursing home, I know with your mom being isolated, it is so difficult right now. And a lot of us are like, let's just let it go. But we need to just stick it out, and we need to thank the people who are doing a good job to take care of us. Now, the other thing.
absolutely. And guess what? I know this sounds so hokey. I'm not, it comes from my mama. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mama's, it's from my mama. Is there are a couple things she used to say, but one of them really sticks with me is that even if you're having a bad day, you can make your day better by making someone else feel better.
I
And
totally
so when
agree.
we did these things with my mom and for my mother-in-law, socially distanced, very safe, it made them so amazingly happy that turned everything around
Yeah,
and made me feel happier.
yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. And we need to take that power back. We need, as people who are supportive of these public health initiatives to keep us, to try to bring health back to our nation, we need to take our power back that we support it, because we're not going to get, News Channel 5 is not going to come out and say, hey, look, a bunch of people wrote thank you letters to the, county board. We're not going to get that. But we need to let the county board know that we care. We need to let the teachers know that we care. We need to let the police officers who have to go into these horrible situations, because people are still overdosing, there's still crime, there's still car accidents, there's still things that they have to deal with. We need to let them know, thank you for what you do. I appreciate you.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to move on, Marie, because there's a few things too that you can do as a consumer when you go to someplace to shop, when you go someplace to buy gas, when you go someplace to order pizza. You take a moment to read your state's directive. Every state is different. Illinois is pretty strict. Michigan is pretty strict. California very strict. So you need to take a minute, and if you go in to pick up your pizza, and the guy making your pizza, and the person at the counter giving it to you to pick up are not wearing masks and gloves, they're supposed to. That is our Illinois state law in proper food handling during the time of COVID. You need to make sure you talk to the manager. Now, personally, if I walked into a pizza parlor and they weren't using the safe handling procedures for food handling right now, I would say, you know what, keep the pizza. I'll have a peanut butter sandwich, because I can't risk getting sick because you didn't take the precautions you were supposed to by mandate.
And on the flip side of that,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid if you walk in and see exceptional folks doing a fantastic job. Again, like we said, reach out to your legislators,
Thank you.
reach out to those managers, and
Yeah.
phone call, send an email, say, hey, I was at your store and I really appreciated the social distancing, the masking. I thought you did a great job. Because again,
Yes.
when they have or when they have employees being threatened, and one employee gets threatened by one crazy guy, but he gets 10 people saying, hey, we appreciate
Good
this.
job.
It
Thank
comes
you.
down to money. It's like, well, hey, I'll take 10 customers over one. So we
Well,
need to combat it with just as much.
we need to know that those cashiers, those stockers, the security, they're feeling the pressure too. It really weighs on them when people are terrible to them. I had to go to Menards last week to get something for my husband, and he called the order in. I just had to drive around back and get it. So I talked to the security guard, and she told me, she said, so many people are wonderful. And she said, but then again, I had a guy today that told me that if he had to wear a mask, he was going to run me over. I'm like, did you report it? No, I just stood there and looked at him until he put his mask on. And I said, you need to take down his license plate number and you need to report it, because that's threatening you. That could be vehicular homicide. I said, if he was just a little bit wound the wrong way, you could be dead right now. So you need to take that power back. And I said, I want you to know that I appreciate the job that you're doing. So we might have her on the show later on, because she was pretty fascinating.
So, hey, that's another thing, listeners. If you have someone that you think is doing a great job, whether it's an alderman or a county board member or a
Your mayor.
representative, we will reach out to them and ask them to come on to say thank you to them. We will find out, we'll organize a sending. So reach out to us and let us know
nominate somebody.
Who those folks are, who should be rewarded or encouraged for the good work that they're doing.
Who make a difference in your life. And the other thing, too, with taking back your power is not only complaining, saying thank you when things are going well, but if you see things that are not being compliant, that are being against the safety of the health and community, the health of the community, you need to speak to a manager. If it's really, really busy, you need to go home and call them, or go out to your car and call them. Keep your cool. Talk to them professionally. We're all working here. If I'm going into a store right now, it's usually work-related, farm-related, something, You need to make sure that you talk to the manager calmly and say, these are my concerns when I shop in your store. I went in there and only 60% of the people had masks on. None of your employees had masks on.
And remember, while we may have limited choices right now, even though some businesses won't come back, some businesses will go away, others will emerge in their place, because that's the way we operate. And you can take your business elsewhere.
You can.
And remember that. If you contact a manager and they are rude and dismissive and like, well, tough, I'm doing it anyway. And we've seen some of that happen.
Yes, we have.
It's my store. I do it the way I want to do it. You can remember that. And when this all lays off, you can remember and not shop there.
The other
So
thing,
even if you can't immediately retaliate because you live in a small community and there's only one freaking store, we get that. But remember, you'll have more power as we get past this.
You need to tell people what you saw. You need to call your local county health department and say, look,
absolutely,
this is what happened. I don't feel comfortable shopping at the one and only store in my town because nobody's masking. Nobody's taking care of proper food, proper food handling. I'm scared to shop there. I don't have any choices, or I do have choices, but you need to know this. And if the county health department, a lot of times they're so busy right now or have shortened hours, you need to just leave a message or fill out an intake form online and send it to them. Also talk to the corporate headquarters. Don't be afraid to call the head of Jewel or send them a message, or the head of Kroger, and say, look, this is the problem when I shop in your store, the head of Aldi's, whatever you need to do. And the next step is to call your state Department of Public Health, because these violators must be held responsible. And if there's no responsibility, no personal respect for the community, they don't care if you get sick. They don't care if you die. That's exactly what they say when they don't take care of following the proper procedure to handle food, to handle customers, to have people in their store. They're saying, I don't respect you. I don't care about you. I only care about me. So
let's change this, guys. Let's start a big push here, and we will start it tomorrow when we post this for our podcast and our video. Please jump in, subscribe, comment, like, share.
Yeah.
If you have a way or something special that you do to say thank you. We have an amazing woman in Iowa who makes socks for folks as sort of a thank you.
She
and
made
comfort.
some for my dad that was dying.
So we there are all kinds of people with all kinds of talent, and if you have something you do to to say thank you, let us know, and we'd
Yeah.
be happy to amplify
A
that.
mask
So,
maker.
like, subscribe, and share. That's the only way you get to do
Yep,
it.
yep. And we want you to take your power back. We want you to act professionally and kind. I have to say, I lost my stuff today at somebody because they were careless with my food and I left my sandwich. So I had to go out and get something, and I thought, you know what? I don't have to shop here. I don't have to eat your food. I can be a little pissy and I can leave. And that's not, I mean, I know I come off real brusque on this show because I am in your face, but I don't do that in public. That's not my public persona. Most people who actually know me will tell you that. But I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry about having to run the fox off and make my husband.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. Well, that fox.
I'm glad you saved the chickens.
He ate 16 chickens yesterday. He, she, their children.
How did you lose so many chickens?
We were trying to do social distancing chicken, eating fried chicken, which was not one of my chickens. And since I wasn't paying attention, I didn't hear what was going the commotion like I did this time because I'm closer to where the chicken coop is. And there's feathers all over my yard. I have to say, I cried buckets yesterday because they're
Where
pets.
were the dogs? They weren't inside. You were social distancing outside.
My dogs are useless, Murray. They're useless.
Okay, you need another dog.
No, I don't need any more dogs.
You need another damn dog. A good dog.
I don't need any more dogs. I have, I have 2. That's enough. My mother always told me you should never have more dogs than you have hands to pet them with.
Wow.
So,
I don't follow that rule. But please follow us on Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com. Thank you so much.
And like, subscribe, and find us on Demcast, share, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.